The night I gave birth was supposed to be the night I finally felt alive. Instead, it was the night they buried me under a lie. I remember the hospital lights, pale, sharp, cold. The doctor's voice blurred into a hum after hours of labor. I heard my baby's cry once, just once. Then silence. The nurse looked at my parents. My mother nodded like she'd rehearsed it. My father stood beside her, hand on her shoulder, expression calm, detached. When I woke up, my arms were empty. A nurse came in quietly, eyes down. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "There were complications." "What do you mean?" My throat burned. He was crying. I heard him cry. "Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video." She didn't answer. She just turned away, pressing her lips together like she was swallowing something she couldn't say. Then my mother walked in. Her perfume hit before her words did. "It's over," she said flatly. "The baby didn't make it." I stared at her face, searching for grief, for any trace of the woman who used to sing to me as a child. But there was nothing. Her tone was steady, businesslike. My father stood behind her with his arms crossed. "I want to see him," I whispered. Mom's eyes hardened. "They already took care of it. You don't need to see that." "They?" "The hospital," she said. "It's better this way. You're young. You'll move on." I tried to sit up, but my body betrayed me. Every muscle screamed. I collapsed back against the pillow, sobbing. My father leaned closer and said, "You need rest. Stop making a scene." That's what they always said when something terrible happened. Stop making a scene. They signed the papers for my discharge before I could walk. I left the hospital 2 days later with an empty stroller and a death certificate I couldn't bear to look at. For weeks, I couldn't leave my room. My mom told everyone I was recovering from trauma. She kept my phone, saying I didn't need contact with anyone. My sister, Emily, came by once. She hugged me awkwardly, then whispered, "Mom says it's for the best. You weren't ready." I remember her perfume, the same as my mother's, sweet and fake. A year passed, then 2. Emily married a man named Kevin, the kind of man my parents worshipped. Wealthy, polite, stable. They hosted a small gathering after their first anniversary. Mom insisted I come. "You need to rejoin the world," she said. I didn't want to go, but something inside me, the hollow space where my son's name used to be, pushed me forward. When I walked into their house, I froze. There, by the fireplace, stood a toddler with dark curls and hazel eyes. My eyes. He was playing with wooden blocks. Emily laughed when he dropped one, saying, "Careful, sweetheart." Mom swooped in and picked him up, pressing her face against his cheek. "My handsome little man." She cooed. The room blurred. The sound faded. My heart slammed so hard I thought I'd pass out. I walked closer, every step a weight. "What's his name?" I asked. Emily hesitated. "Eli." My knees nearly buckled. That was the name I had chosen, the name I whispered in that delivery room before they told me he was gone. I couldn't speak. My father appeared behind me, voice calm as ever. "Don't start this again," he said quietly. "He's theirs now." Theirs. The word sliced through me. I turned to my mother, my voice barely holding together. "You said he died." She smiled faintly, brushing the child's hair from his forehead. "He did. For you." Emily stepped closer, clutching the boy protectively. "We adopted him legally. You were unfit. You couldn't take care of yourself, let alone a baby." My vision blurred. I reached out, but my father grabbed my wrist. "Don't make a scene," he repeated. "You should be grateful he has a good home." Grateful. I stumbled out of the house, gasping for air. Outside, the cold wind felt like punishment. My mind kept replaying his face. The little dimple on his left cheek, the one that ran in my family. That night, I tore open every old file I had. Hospital records, insurance forms, the fake death certificate. Everything had my parents' signatures. Everything. They hadn't just stolen my child. They'd erased me from his story. For weeks, I didn't sleep. I watched Emily's social media, every photo of Eli twisting the knife deeper, his birthday party, his first steps, my mother in the background of every photo, glowing. And I realized something. If they could rewrite my life once, they'd keep doing it until there was nothing left of me. So I started planning. Not to hurt them, not to beg for what was mine, but to make them live with what they'd buried. And this time, when I came for my son, I wouldn't knock. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after that dinner. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Eli's face, his small hand gripping the block, the tiny wrinkle between his brows when he concentrated. My son. My baby. Alive. Breathing. Calling someone else Mom. At first, I wanted to go straight to the police, but the hospital records were airtight. The signatures were all legitimate. Even my own. One on the discharge form where I'd apparently acknowledged fetal loss. I didn't remember signing anything. I was drugged, exhausted, barely conscious. They'd used that to bury the truth. The only way to prove what they did was to show what they'd taken. I started quietly. I got a part-time job at a community center where Emily sometimes volunteered with her son. I made sure our paths crossed just enough for her to get comfortable again. She smiled at me one afternoon and said, "It's good to see you moving on." "Yeah," I said softly. "I'm learning to forgive." That lie tasted like metal. Over the next few weeks, I became part of their routine. Emily brought Eli every Friday. He loved the center's art room, the finger paints, the soft brushes, the clay that stuck to his little hands. I never said who I was, but I sat close enough to hear him laugh. One day, he looked up from his drawing and asked me, "Do you have kids?" My chest tightened. "I used to," I whispered. He smiled, showing that same dimple, and said, "You should meet my grandma. She says family is everything." Family. The same word they'd used to steal mine. That night, I drove past my parents' house. The lights were still on, the front door open, laughter spilling out. For a moment, I thought about walking in, grabbing him, and running. But that would have made me what they claimed I was: unstable, emotional, unfit. So I decided to become what they'd never expect: controlled, patient, calculated. I found the adoption paperwork through a lawyer friend who owed me a favor. He hesitated at first, saying, "You could get in trouble for this." "I already lost everything," I said. "What more can they take?" When the files arrived, my hands trembled so hard I could barely open them. Every page was a lie built on a truth. My mother's signature appeared under guardian consent, my father's under financial affidavit. Emily's name was written next to adoptive mother, and at the bottom, my name, Sarah Jenkins, listed as biological donor, deceased. They had declared me legally dead. I stared at that line for an hour until the ink blurred from my tears. I realized then they hadn't stolen a child. They'd buried a person, me. Something inside me shifted that night. It wasn't anger anymore. It was precision. They'd built a life on lies, and now I was going to dismantle it brick by brick. First, I needed a key piece, proof that Eli was mine. The hospital DNA registry kept blood samples from all newborns for 2 years. My son was past that limit, but I remembered the blanket they'd wrapped him in, light blue with tiny white clouds. I'd kept it. My mother had given it to me when I got home, saying, "It's the only thing left of him." I sent the fibers for private DNA testing, matching them with a strand of my hair. The results came back a week later. 99.98% maternal relation confirmed. I laughed until my throat hurt. Then I cried harder than I had since that hospital room. Now I had proof. Undeniable scientific proof. But what mattered wasn't exposing them publicly. It was making them live in the same fear they'd trapped me in. I wanted them to watch the truth walk right into their house and destroy everything they loved. So I waited. I visited Emily again, smiling like nothing had changed. I offered to babysit Eli once or twice. She said yes, of course she did. The first time I tucked him into bed, he reached out and touched my hand. "You smell like home," he said softly. That broke me, but I didn't let it show. I kissed his forehead, whispering, "I am home." When I left that night, I knew exactly what I was going to do next. I didn't want their forgiveness. I didn't even want to hurt them physically. I wanted them to see what it felt like when the lie they built their lives on finally started to crumble, one truth at a time. And by the time I was done, every smile in that family portrait would be gone. It started with the silence, the kind that doesn't just fill a room, it eats through it. My parents' house had always been a place of noise, phone calls, orders, laughter that wasn't real. But a month after I began my plan, the calls slowed, the laughter stopped, the calm before collapse. I didn't go after them publicly. I didn't storm in demanding justice. I simply began removing the foundations of the lie they'd built around my son. First, I sent an anonymous tip to the state adoption board. It included Emily's adoption documents and my supposed death certificate. 2 weeks later, investigators called her in for questioning. She tried to act confused, crying, playing the victim, but the cracks began to show. Then, I requested my own medical records from the hospital through a legal mediator. The file came sealed and heavy. When I opened it, the truth was clearer than ever. My mother had paid off a nurse to falsify my death report. The nurse's signature had been quietly removed months later, but the record of the transaction remained, a trail they thought no one would follow. I sent copies of everything, every signature, every receipt to my parents' attorney, the same man who once helped them finalize the adoption. He didn't respond. But 2 days later, my father showed up at my door. He didn't knock gently. He banged. When I opened it, he looked older. His eyes were bloodshot, his tie half undone. "You don't know what you're doing," he said. "I know exactly what I'm doing." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You'll ruin this family." "There's no family left to ruin." He exhaled, shaking his head. "We did what was best for you. You were a mess. You couldn't raise a child." I stared at him. "You mean I couldn't raise him your way? You couldn't stand the idea that something I made could exist without your control?" He flinched. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. Not anger, fear. He left without another word. That night, I went to Emily's house. She opened the door in tears before I could even speak. "They're investigating everything," she whispered. "Mom's losing her mind. Dad's talking about leaving. You've destroyed us." I looked past her into the living room. Eli was sitting on the floor with his toys. He looked up at me, smiling. "Hi," he said. It broke something in me. I knelt down, meeting his eyes. "Hi, sweetheart." Emily crossed her arms. "He doesn't know who you are." I looked at her. "Not yet." She started shaking her head. "You're not taking him." "I'm not," I said softly. "You'll give him to me." She frowned, confused. "Why would I?" "Because deep down, you know you were part of something wrong. You were the pretty surface that hid the rot. And now, it's showing." Her lip trembled. "Mom said—" "Mom lied," I interrupted, "like she always does. You just believed her because it was easier." She didn't answer. I handed her an envelope. "Open it when I'm gone." Inside was the DNA test, the proof. That night, I received a message from her. "I can't sleep. Every time he calls me Mom, it feels wrong." By morning, she called the investigator herself. Within weeks, the entire story surfaced, quietly but powerfully. No screaming headlines, no courtroom spectacle. Just paperwork, hearings, silent exchanges of truth. My parents lost everything, their legal rights, their standing in the community, their illusion of being good people. I didn't press charges. I didn't want them jailed. I wanted them to live in the emptiness they built. Emily moved out of their house and called me one afternoon. "He asks about you," she said. "He said you smell like home again." I cried harder than I ever had. We met in a neutral space, an open park with fading sunlight. When Eli saw me, he ran up and hugged my leg like he'd been waiting all his life. I knelt down and held him tight, breathing in the warmth I'd missed for 2 years. He didn't need explanations. Children don't care about paperwork or lies. They know truth when they feel it. That night, I tucked him into bed in my small apartment. He fell asleep instantly, clutching the same blanket I'd kept all these years. The one they said was all I had left of him. I sat beside him for a long time, just listening to him breathe. It was the sound of something that had never died, just been hidden. My phone buzzed around midnight, a message from an unknown number. Was it worth it? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. A week later, I heard the house was sold. My parents moved out of town quietly. No farewell, no address left behind. They vanished into the kind of silence they once forced on me. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder if they ever drive past a playground and think of what they lost. If they ever realize they buried a daughter and raised a stranger instead. But then I look at Eli sleeping peacefully, his small hand curled around mine, and the wondering stops. I didn't just take back my son. I took back my life, my name, and my truth. They once said he died at birth. Now, every morning, I hear his laughter echo through the walls, and that's how I know their lies finally died instead. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.